A revolutionary. Say whoa. Trap revolutionary. Got the wave is too scary. Doing this thing like Malcolm ain't by any means necessary. We ain't got it by no one seen hand. We got the master plan. Get the move.
What's going on, y'all? Y'all want to do the video real quick. Talk more about the Nolan Wells case. So it looked like it's everything, like right now, it's like it's coming to a head. You know, they still haven't done the autopsy. That's what I was waiting on. I've been researching, trying to find out what's going on with the autopsy. For I understand that, you know, everything is going to be turned over to a grand jury. They haven't presented it yet. And there's a lot of back and forth about it too. You know, like people are saying, oh, you know, Attorney Ben Crump is, you know, his narrative or whatever, he has not, you know, they're assuming he has the autopsy report, but he's not coming forth with anything because he knows, basically they're saying it has revealed. They're assuming the autopsy has revealed that, you know, it was no foul play. But at the same time, no official autopsy has been done. You know, of course, they did one in Mississippi, the coroner's office in Mississippi. The coroner performed the autopsy, but toxicology reports have not come back. You know, what has happened, you know, of course, when they do the autopsy, these particular elements of the body, they may do a biopsy or whatever and send different tests to different labs, different places. So that could take days. That can take a while to get that information back. So that's why no autopsy has, you know, like I said, at this point, has not been received. Of course, they did mention that, you know, Ben Crump did say that autopsy should be back, you know, and that was like, you know, we would say 5 to 7 days ago. So, you know, right now, nothing has been received. But, so, you know, I am interested to see, you know, where this is going to lead, you know. So, man, it just kind of seems, it seems like it's going to end up, you know, possibly, like I said, possibly criminal charges end up being filed, but at the same time, it may not be, you know. So, you know, it just remains to be seen, you know, how that might end up. When I was just looking for the coroner's office, you know, the coroner's office in Mississippi, Jackson County, Mississippi. So, Bruce Lynn Jr. is a coroner's office, so where he's a coroner in Mississippi, Jackson County, Mississippi. So from what I understand, he has not reported anything back, you know what I'm saying? And the independent investigation or independent autopsy that was handled by Ben Crump, the independent autopsy report that has not been, where it has not been publicly made or talked about, you know, that report, like I said, from the coroner's office in Mississippi, Bruce Lynn Jr., he hasn't, you know, came out with anything, and also Ben Crump, you know, the independent autopsy doctor that he hired or whatever, that autopsy has not been brought out. So it just remains to be seen in that aspect, you know, and what is going to end up happening. And now I'm other opinion that I think everything is being kept under wraps, and it's going to be kept under wraps until they present everything to the district attorney, Jackson County district attorney. So we'll see, I think, here pretty soon what's going to end up happening. Because like I said, the funeral is proceeding. Because I didn't even understand it. Well, I was like, how they're going to even how would they even do a funeral when an autopsy hasn't been, report hasn't been published or brought out or whatever. But then, it was, from I understand, it said that, autopsy reports can be, that being the different elements of the autopsy, it goes to different labs and until it's those labs like confirm what happened or like, hey, run their test, the official report can't be done. But the body, since it has already been, from my understanding, it could take up to 2 hours to do an autopsy or whatever. And then after they conduct that autopsy, the body can, whatever, the family can have the funeral, whatever. And afterwards, those autopsy reports will come back from those different labs that they send them to. So, they don't have to keep the body per se to, do or finish the autopsy, because those reports will end up coming back from those separate labs at a different time. Then after they get all those reports back, then they can actually, finalize and write, the final autopsy report out, so, but I say it's just, it remains to be seen. Just a lot of back and forth about it. Investigators have been on the case. Lawyers have been on different, people giving their opinion. Saw a guy from the Cajun Navy. He's one of actually, one of the ones that found Nolan or whatever. He said a few things in regards to Nolan's, body, seeing the body, actually finding the body. It seems like he's of the opinion that he feels like, a lot of people online, making allegations, false allegations is, hurting the family.
You could be in like 3 feet of water, and then within a few steps, you could be in 20 feet of water. And if all of a sudden your feet aren't under you anymore, and the current starts carrying you, it can drag you out pretty fast, pretty violently. I can't speak to whether it's damaging the investigation because I'm not part of it. One thing that I thought was interesting at the press conference today, the family's lawyers were complaining that they weren't having a lot of communication from the sheriff's office. At the same time, the lawyer's been on a press junket bashing the sheriff's office without any evidence, saying that they can't be trusted and that they can't run a fair investigation without any evidence, without any examples of why that might be true. They're just saying it to try to keep their fundraising up, presumably. So that kind of irresponsibility needs to stop.
GPS evidence, calls from a boat in distress, and bombshell news search pictures have all increased the continuing mystery around the tragic death of Nolan Wells. The story has gripped the U.S. after Nolan vanished during a 4th of July outing with friends to Horn Island, a barrier island about 10 miles from the Mississippi mainland. His body was recovered 2 days later on the shorelines of the northwest tip of the uninhabited island, sparking a raft of online conspiracy theories searching for the truth about his death. More than a week since the promising college football player's body was recovered, his parents, Christine and Elmore Woonsley, continue to search for answers as to what happened to their 18-year-old son on that fateful 4th of July outing. A cause of death has not been determined pending an autopsy. And now, an attorney for Nolan's parents has said the results of their son's death investigation will be turned over to a grand jury, raising further questions. Meanwhile, new information has emerged about the route Nolan and his friends took to Horn Island, as well as a terrifying distress call to a dispatcher.
No, I don't know if he's leaning, one way, but, or kind of, siding with, like I said, the sheriff's office saying there was no foul play or whatever. But seems like he just has, what his thoughts on people, just like commenting and the false allegations or the false reporting of the matter, like just making up stuff. He says like he's like against that, but as far as like the foul play aspect of it, I kind of think he seems like, I don't know. Like he might be leaning that way, like, oh, well, there's no foul play or whatever. But he did mention, hey, no autopsy report, so I can't really say. He did say it's like he's received like information from independent people calling in that may not, or calling them or contacting him in some form or fashion, that may not want to talk to the police, you know. So, but he did mention like the best thing people can do, like, hey, just come forward. You know, if you want to talk to the police, hey, you can, you know, reach out. You know what I'm saying? So, I believe he has talked to some people, possibly, you know, or it has been people that has talked to, you know, people in some position of authority, but they have not been made publicly known. You know, then the Tristan is like Tristan Shepard, you know, supposed to be his friends. Like now, then people saying he's a decoy because, you know, he's getting on, you know, on platform saying that he's the one that was yelling, talking about getting my phone back. He was you know, he was Nolan's best friend, and the parents saying we don't know him.
But Tristan Shepard described himself as Nolan's best friend. He gave an interview saying that he was the one who was yelling in one of the viral videos that people had been questioning, and said that it wasn't Nolan in the video, that it was him, and that Nolan met a girl that day that he really liked, even though he'd never, you know, interacted with this girl before. Her name was Katie. Have you spoken to Tristan since Nolan's passing, and how are you responding to his account of what happened?
So first of all, we don't know Tristan. We've never met him. So to say, you know, best friend, childhood friend, that's a bit of a stretch. We've never met him. He's never been to our home. Now, if you were to say that about Jalen or Javon, I would say absolutely. You could say that those are childhood friends, those are best friends, because they've been to our home. We know their family. We're close to, you know, their mother. But this young man, I maybe high school, you know, they started hanging out, or, you know, kind of been around each other. But again, we don't know him. And not to discount anything he has said, which of course, still trying to rule those things out. But I mean, he has communicated. He did offer his condolences, which we appreciate. And he did let me know about that tidbit, which of course, you know, like I've been telling everyone, if you have any information, forward that over to the local authorities. Make sure also forward that over to our legal team as well, just to make sure that we're looking at everything.
These people, you know, also come in because I'm, you know, reading different, you know, posts and stuff like that, saying like, you know, he came out of nowhere, and it seems like, you know, he wants it. He wants his 15 minutes of fame just to, you know, get on, or he's possibly paid, or some form of diversion, you know, some form of you know, some, I don't know, smoke and mirrors or whatever, you know, somebody that's you know, a decoy, you know. So you know, and then I was, like I said, I was looking at some stuff, and it seems like, man, it's like, okay, you saying that's your voice, but then the attorney saying like, no, that was Nolan asking for his phone back. Even the attorney, and he's been mentioned as well. He said, not attorney, the judge, he's a former judge. He mentioned that Nolan's parents said they didn't know Tristan, even though other people are saying, hey, most time parents don't know all of their, you know, child's friends, right? But I don't know, man. Like most time, you know your children. You know, you might not know all of their friends, but for them to say they don't know him, that's kind of weird. You know, and then he seems kind of weird just saying like, oh, that was me. Like, I don't see, I don't know. I just don't see that, you know, you just, you just get on here and, you know, get on here and say that, that was you. you know, talking loud or whatever. That was you asking for your phone back. You know, and you're saying, oh, you know, everybody calm down. Let's just, you know, not jump to conclusions, or, you know, not be so angry at the matter, and just, you know, let this, you know, kind of subside, and so we'll, you know, this Nolan can rest in peace. And I understand that, right? You know, and that's good. But it's like people are upset, you know, because the way things have, his name's Carlos Moore, the former judge that spoke about Nolan Wells' situation. But people are upset because it's like, man, you know, the way things get handled with us, you know, as a people, most time we get unfair treatment in death and in judgment. You know, end up getting killed or whatever, you know, harmed in some form or fashion. You know, it's like the brutality from the police, being unarmed and shot down, you know, or when we defend ourselves, you have to go to court. Most time we're not giving self-defense. We're not giving the benefit of the doubt. You know, that our lives were in danger, you know, to where we can defend ourselves, and it would be, you know, considered self-defense and be acquitted for any charge if we do have to protect ourselves and someone ends up being hurt or killed. But you know, the judge is, you know, that's what he said. Carlos Moore was saying about Nolan's parents didn't know Tristan Shepard, saying, like, you know, because Don Lemon was asking him, like, well, what about the guy, you know, the guy saying that was his phone, and that was him speaking, talking about giving his phone back. He's like, well, now, you know, I had to contest that because, from what I understand, Nolan's parents said they didn't know him, you know. So, you know, Don Lemon asked him, you know, what he thought about the case, and, you know, is this, you know, possibly, you know, was it foul play, and, you know, why did he say certain things about, like, hey, I'm not going to allow, you know, this to continue to happen, where we're getting the short end of the stick. Like, hey, I'm a judge and I'm going to speak on it because, you know, this is something that should not happen, you know. And we're informed now, basically, like, hey, most time y'all do the things y'all do because no one is black, basically, informed or in these positions that knows how it's supposed to go. So I'm going to speak on it because I know, and I just can't, you know, I just can't let it ride. Basically, what he's saying, like, I just can't let it ride, man.
I do know you don't have to be indicted for anything to be arrested. All of this evidence is out there now. It should have been presented to a judge by now. Some of it for probable cause to make some arrest. Some of it to get the search warrants. I am not about any dilatory tactics. You're not going to punt the ball and put it on the grand jury. Certain folks need to be arrested now. If there's so much evidence, evidently there's enough evidence for the FBI to now be involved. Evidently there's enough evidence now for the DA to announce that she's going to present things to the grand jury. There's nothing to present to a grand jury if there's an accidental drowning. An accidental drowning under no suspicious circumstances would not require a presentation to a grand jury, and the DA could make that call herself. So evidently, there's something not clean in the milk. There's something not clean in the milk, and they know it. But yet and still, because of privilege or whatever, there has been no arrest, and we are day 11 post July the 4th, when Nolan Wells was first reported missing.
Because he's saying, like, man, I think it's some foul play. I think it's some things that have went on that are wrong, you know. And he mentioned too, like he said, man, like, because Don Lemon was asking him, like, okay, well, how you know, have you seen any, you know, mishandling of cases? Things have happened. Like, he literally said, like, issues, racial, have racial, biases that you've literally seen? He said, yes. As a judge, yes. He said a case came for him to where black man ended up leaving his child in the car, and it was hot and the child died. He ended up getting arrested and charged. He said a white lady did the same thing. Child left the child in the car, it was hot outside, child died, didn't get charged with anything. But the black man got charged. He actually said he kept him from going to prison, but he did get charged, criminally charged. Actually with murder initially, but I believe it ended up being negligent, negligent, like case with the child. I believe some form of conduct. I believe I can't get it exactly right, but I might, like I said, include it in the video to provide context. But so things like in that nature, and that's why I would say in that sense, where even if Tristan is really Nolan's friend, as he claims, that's why we're upset, because of the bias, And like I said, and I'm not gonna continue, just say it's always a black, white thing. We're the victim. I'm not saying it, but most of the time these incidents, something occurs. It's some form of bias. So that has to be spoke about, and that's why it's like I said, I wanted to do another video about this, because everything is coming. Seems like everything is coming to a head, and we'll find out. That's kind of how I am. I'm saying? I'm not. I do think there was foul play, but I really want to, man, get that autopsy, man. I really want to hear, what the autopsy ends up, that report ends up, specifying, when that comes out, and finding out what was, stated in an autopsy report. But anyway, let me get up out here, man. I just want to say that, things are, like I said, things are coming to the light, and I pray that he, like I said, Nolan gets justice. I pray he rests in peace. I pray his family has peace. Condolences to them, and hope. I just really hope, everything in this case is resolved, and if there's some form of foul play, I really hope, man, and pray that justice is served. I pray that Nolan gets the justice he deserves and his family has closure. But anyway, I'm gonna get up out here. Hope y'all out there doing well, living life full of love and happiness, doing, living life, being great, strive for greatness every day. I'll say, hey, y'all know we can agree, we can disagree, we disagree, we can hash it out. I just ask y'all to be respectful. I'm gonna be respectful towards y'all. Until next, y'all, love y'all. All right, y'all.
Fuck it, go ahead and blow off the dough. Step through the maze, man, and became amazing. About to rewrite history and change the page in a crooked book that never told us the true story. Like how we were kings and queens before the slave story, before the killing, stealing, and drug dealing on some real shit. We ran the world.